Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. What am I going to share is about history. This is the second part of the Third Philippine Republic. The administration of President Carlos P. Garcia started in 1957 to 1961. President Carlos P. Garcia was a seasoned politician who started his political career in the 1920s. He was also the vice president of the Nacionalista Party from 1947 to 1953. He served as a congressman, governor, and senator before he became the vice president of the Philippines alongside President Magsaysay in 1953. Under the Magsaysay administration, he also served as a Secretary of the Foreign Affairs. President Carlos P. Garcia succeeded to the presidency when Ramon Magsaysay died. He was later elected for a full term during the 1957 election. The victory officially made him the fourth president of the Third Philippine Republic. One of his program is the Filipino First policy. President Garcia administration promoted a comprehensive nationalist policy. He promised to remove foreign control in the business, trade, commerce, and industry. He asserted the need for complete economic freedom and said that the government would no longer tolerate foreign interests in the national economy. To achieve his nationalist goals, President Garcia launched his Filipino First policy. This encouraged more businessmen to set up the factories, which greatly improved in the country's economy. The second program is the revival of the Philippine cultural arts. When the objective With the objective of the eliminating colonial mentality, President Garcia sought to revive Filipino customs and culture. He became a big supporter of the Republic Cultural Award given to the Filipino artists, scientists, and writers. Next is the fostering of the value of austerity. During his presidency, President Garcia also wanted to root out corruption in the government. To address this, he introduced an austerity program which aimed to encourage the people, especially government officials, to live a simple life. President Garcia defined his austerity program as a policy for temperate spending. Next is the administration of President Diosdado Macapagal, started 1961 to 1965. President Diosdado P. Macapagal first served as representative of the 1st District of Pampanga before he assumed the vice presidency in 1957. Since he belonged to the opposition party, the Garcia administration did not give him key posts in the cabinet, and he was relegated only to ceremonial duties. On January 21, 1961, President Diosdado Macapagal was chosen as the Liberal Party candidate for the president election. He campaigned tirelessly in the villages and towns in the provinces. On November 14, 1961, he defeated the electionist Carlos P. Garcia and was duly elected as the new president. During his inaugural speech, President Diosdado Macapagal said, "I shall be president not only to the rich but more of the poor. We must help bridges the gap between the poor and the man of wealth, not by pulling down the rich to his level as communism desires, but by raising the poor towards more abundant life." After he won the presidency, President Macapagal opened the door of Malacanang Palace to masses and canceled traditional inaugural ball. He also made a decree forbidding his family to be involved in the government transactions. President Macapagal's political objective included the restoration of economic stability. He alleviated of the common man's sad plight. Okay, and the establishment of a dynamic basis for future growth. Unfortunately, while Macapagal tried his best to portray himself as the champion of the common man, his powerful and influential friends paraded their wealth and made anomalous deals with the government. One of his programs is changing the Independence Day from July 4 to July 12. In 1962, President Macapagal changed the date of the Philippine independence from July 4 to June 12. This move favored the significance of the Declaration of Independence led by Emilio Aguinaldo on June 12, 1898. Then the American recognition of the Philippine independence proclaimed on July 4, 1946. Next is the devaluation of the Philippine peso. President Macapagal also removed the economic control imposed in the community or in the country since 1950. He devaluated the Philippine peso based on the free market rate pegged by the US dollar. The foreign exchange control, which was impetus of the industrialization in the progressive decade of the 50s, was also lifted. After this move, imported goods flooded in the country. This eventually forced many Filipinos manufacturers to close down their businesses. President Macapagal also decentralized the economic and the government by promoting commerce in the provinces and by investing greater power in the local government units. Next is the land reform. To improve the life of the peasants, President Macapagal signed the Land Reform Code or the Republic Act number 3844 on August 8, 1963. The code was passed to establish the abusive and unjust tenancy system existing in the country and to give full government protection to the leaseholders. Under the Land Reform Code, a farmer could secure a loan from a government which he could invest by producing crops in the land of his farmer landlord. Through this, the farmer was freed from the landlord whom he would only have to pay 25% of his harvest. Next is the Sabah claim. In 1962, President Macapagal asserted the country's claim to Sabah, an island located at the northernmost tip of Borneo. Sabah had long been hotly contested by Malaysia and the Philippines. Individual claims were already made by the two countries, declaring Sabah as a part of their respective national territories. The Philippine claim to Sabah was backed up by Sultan of Sulu, who legally owned it since 17th century. However, Sabah was leased to a private British company when Malaysia was still a British colony. When Malaysia became independent, Sabah was claimed by the Malaysian government as a part of its country's legal territory. Mapilindo. During his presidency, President Macapagal tried to strengthen Philippine ties with its neighboring Malayan countries. After talks were initiated, President Macapagal together with the Abdul Rahman of Malaysia and President Sukarno of Indonesia signed Manila Accord on July 31, 1963. The agreement aimed to forge closer economic and social cultural ties among the three countries. On August 6, 1963, the three leaders established Mapilindo, means Malaysia, Philippines, and Indonesia, and agreed to battle colonialism and imperialism. However, on September 16, 1963, the Malayan and British governments formed the Federation of Malaysia and included Sabah on its outlined territories. The Philippine government under Macapagal protested. A rift soon developed between the Philippines and Malaysia, putting in danger the Mapilindo organization. It was suspended when the Philippines broke diplomatic ties with the Malaysia in September 1963. Next is the Stonehill Scandal. Macapagal's image as a champion of the masses failed miserably when his government was affected by the Stonehill scandal of 1962. The scandal exposes government corruption and racketeering within the whole bureaucracy. A raid on the properties of Harry S. Stonehill disclosed by the Blue Book, which contained names of people from every segment of the government and from the media who received bribe money from Stonehill. The scandal provoked public outrage and elicited of the official inquiry from the government. However, before the inquiry could make any progress, Stonehill was deported by the government and sent back to the United States. Next is the administration of President Ferdinand Marcos, which begins in 1965 to 1986. President Ferdinand E. Marcos started his long political career as an elected congressman from 1949 to 1959. He also served as the senator from 1959 to 1965. While he held the Senate presidency in 1963, he aspired to become president of the next 2 years and expected support from President Macapagal. When President Macapagal decided to run for re-election, Marcos joined the Nacionalista Party and became its standard bearer. Eventually, he won the 1965 presidential election against President Macapagal and promised to make the country great again. During the first few years of the Marcos presidency, the government faced tough national situation. It had to with the problems inherited from the previous administrations. To fix crisis, President Marcos called for a new kind of governance and outlined the following policies. Number one, self-sufficiency in the production of rice and diversification of crops. Number two, implementation of the land reform program. And number three, intensification of the community development program. The new foreign policy and the ASEAN. During his administration, President Marcos strove to improve the country's foreign relations. He strengthened ties with the United States and the other allied countries, and also forged diplomatic and economic relations with the communist regimes. President Marcos played the key role in the developing country relations with his neighboring countries. On August 8, 1967, he participated in the formation of the Association of Southern Asian Nations, or ASEAN. It was created to promote a closer and stronger relationship among members countries, advance the cause of peace in the region, and develop cooperation in economic, social, and technical scientific fields. Aside from the Philippines, the original member countries of the ASEAN were Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore. At present, the membership already includes Vietnam, Cambodia, Brunei, Myanmar, and Laos. Declaration of Martial Law. On September 21, 1972, President Marcos issued Proclamation 1081, putting the entire country under martial law. He said that the decree was meant to save the Republic and to reform the social, economic, and political institutions in the country. President Marcos also justified this move with the recent attack on the Defense Minister Juan Ponce Enrile. Next is the 1973 Constitution. To further strengthen his power, President Marcos initiated the creation of the 1973 Constitution, which took effect on the January 17, 1973. It abolished the Philippine Congress and replaced it with the Batasang Pambansa. President Marcos had a great influence over the delegates of the Batasang Pambansa, and he used influence to sure that his program and policies were implemented. By virtue of the 1973 Constitution, The form of government was also changed from presidential to parliamentary. Through his system, the President Marcos made himself the president and the prime minister at the same time. He acquired not only executive power but also legislative and judicial powers. The New Society. President Marcos' New Society was guided by his program called Pledges. It was an acronym which stood for P for Peace and Order. L is the land reform. E for economic development. D for development of moral values. G, government reforms. And letter E, educational reforms. And S for social services. The most prominent program of President Marcos was the Kilusang Kabuhayan at Kaunlaran or KKK, which encouraged the establishment of small and medium-scale industries. People's skill were honored for livelihood opportunities. To facilitate easy transfer of products from rural areas to town markets, roads and bridges were built. President Marcos implemented an agrarian reform program to address the problems of tenant farmers under his Presidential Decree number 27. A person could only own 7 hectares of land and the owners must make it productive. Land beyond 7 hectares upon equitable payment made by the government was distributed to the former tenants. To help farmers, irrigation facilities were built and credit opportunities were made available. Another program of Marcos administration was the Sariling Sikap. This encouraged poor families to produce food for their families by planting vegetables in their own backyards. And the last one is the lifting of martial law. On January 17 in 1981, President Marcos officially lifted martial law through Proclamation number 2045. However, his dictatorial powers remained by virtue of his previous decrees. Although the writ habeas corpus was also restored, the military and the police authorities remained powerful. They stayed watchful on anti-government forces. Many said that President Marcos lifted martial law only to appease Pope John Paul II or Pope John Paul II, who was very vocal against dictatorialship. After martial law was lifted, Pope John Paul visited the Philippines. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to please like, share, and subscribe, and hit bell all for more updates and more videos. Thank you for watching.